Welcome to Season 3 of In the Vine podcast with your host, Melissa Chavez, joined by Yesenia, Denise, and Shekinah. This season, we'll be discussing the joy of the Lord and, of course, our monthly and other upcoming events. To find out more, please visit www.inthevine.org. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show your support and like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of In the Vine podcast with your host, Melissa freaking Chavez. And with me today, I have
Denise, Shekinah,
Kat. And we have Kat again. Hi, Kat.
Is it the shirt?
Is it the shirt? It's the shirt.
Oh my goodness.
I was trying to teach Luke today to go like this, and he just went. Okay, so Yessie, homegirl, it's been a nice little vacation for you, but it's time for you to come back, okay? I mean, we love having you here.
We do love you, Kat. Yes.
You have like a lot of wisdom.
Thanks.
And so I'm actually really grateful that we had this opportunity to have you on here.
Thanks so much.
How'd you say? I'm not ready.
Now get out. Okay.
How would you be?
Thank you. She's used to it
This
right
is your
now.
episode.
Uh-huh.
Said this is your episode.
It's
Done this for 20 years.
They got me riled up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question. Before we do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of preview of the topic that we're going to talk about today, and that is boundaries, preferences, and desires. We're going to talk about the differences in each of those and how preferences and desires impact your boundaries. So make sure you stay tuned to the end because it's gonna get good. And yes, we've touched on this topic before, but like I said in the last episode, we have not discussed it in this way. So it opened up a lot of new information to me, so I think it'll do the same for you. So stay tuned. So my question for you ladies today, since we're filming 2 episodes back to back, I can't ask you again how you're doing. I'm gonna ask you. I'm good. I'm gonna ask you girls, how did Jesus move in your life this last week? And last time I started with you, so I'm going to start with drum roll, please. Shekinah.
So you guys know I went out on a hike.
What are PCT? No, I'm kidding.
Actually, you know what? The Lord really humbled me going out there. My goal was to just press into prayer, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel a little ashamed to admit this. It was really difficult for me to enter into a mindset of prayer. It made me realize though that my prayers I pray a lot, but they've just been very generic. And so, I know, the judgmental I know.
Shekinah, please step away from this. It's been nice having you.
I'm so sorry. But no, it was definitely convicting. It's very convicting, you know, when you're out there. I was out there to pray.
Nobody will hear this ever. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to pause.
I'm so sorry.
Listen.
Give it 20 seconds and then you'll be good.
I'm going to go repent.
Fall on your face and repent.
Yeah, I'm going to go fall on my face and repent.
That's this season's like slogan.
Yes, there's supposed to be joy in the Lord. Now fall on your face and repent.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
But yes, no, it was very convicting, but it was good because, you know, being convicted and doing the right thing is always a good thing. But it was difficult. It wasn't difficult. I was praying, but I wasn't
tuned in.
Yeah, I wasn't tuned in. It was kind of difficult for me to tune in. I thought of all places, alone on a mountain, you know, like I'm where Moses went up to go pray. I'm where Jesus went up to go pray, you know, and I'm having a hard time. It just reminded me that I haven't been very intentional with my prayers, and that's why it's so hard because I haven't been in the habit of it. So, but it was a good thing. And I'm grateful that the Lord showed me that and used that experience to remind me, hey, you have not been intentional with your prayers lately. So it's been a very convicting week, for sure.
Well, I think your body was on flight and fight mode anyways. You're in a new place, right?
Yeah.
I think it's part of your body's mechanism to be like, okay, be aware of your surroundings. Like, it's your new territory, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you shouldn't have been praying, because technically you surely should have, but...
Yeah.
There's grace.
There's grace.
There's grace. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not walking out like, God, I'm
shameful,
so sorry.
yeah.
I'm not shameful. It was a very humbling reminder of, you know what, God, you're right. Like, I can be more intentional around you. Because I would stop to pray and my mind would just go blank.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, it was good because it reminded me, it reminds me that God is a God of peace. Yeah. And I felt so much peace up there. But I was like, I don't know what to pray for exactly. Yeah. But there's so many things, in the vine being a good example. I couldn't pray for in the vine. Yes. But I kind of just went blank and I was just like, I'm really happy and content with my life. And what do I press into right now? Yeah. But there's always something to pray for. There's always something to do. It was a good reminder. Like I said, it wasn't like convicting. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel shameful about it. It was just a good reminder that, okay.
It's a shift.
It's just a shift. It's a mind shift, Start to press in a little bit more.
I think that's worth speaking to because I think we create this like familiar territory with our prayers, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, whether you start listening to worship music, like if my routine is I listen to worship music, I pray during the worship music and then pray, like worship some more. So there's been times where I try to discipline myself to do it without any worship music and I'm like, la, 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 yeah. la, la. And that in itself takes a different practice, but it also shows how much empty space there actually is, right? And how much you can actually use that as an distraction rather than a time to press in. Right. So I'm not saying that that's all the time and whatever, but it definitely helps to be in Galatians, it talks about how being led by the Spirit and walking in step with the Spirit. So there's two differences, right? Like being led is praying, but walking in step is praying His will. So I love that you said that because I think it really talks about our walk with God. Like it really is like that. It shifts all the time. So hang 10, girl. You?
How did Jesus move in my life this week? He did speak to me about some things. So I actually got to pray more this week. I learned to discipline myself a little bit. Gave myself some boundaries with being more intentional with spending time with Him and pressing into Him. And so far, it's cool. It works. Thank God.
I'm awesome.
Me. I always struggle with, do I do something individual or something that involves my family? Because I'm in that season where I'm seeing where I really believe that God speaks to me a lot through my children. Just because it's such and I can go on, but there's such an attack on mothers being at home with their children, or I don't have time to pray or whatever the case may be. And it's like if people are just intentional and watch, like God speaks profoundly. Yeah. And so, I mean, for me, I think the way that God's really been speaking to me is my daughters had a recital and it was one of the most proud moments as a mom ever because it allowed me to see, all the work that we've been pouring into them. It's there's months, and even they've been practicing for years or 2 years now, and so to see them go up and overcome the fear, there's just so much work that's put into this one moment, right? On a daily basis, whether it be practicing, whether it be, them overcoming their shyness, their stage fright, whatever the case may be. And it's like a culmination of all the work that's been put in. It just reminds me of when God sat back, on that seventh day and just watched. Yeah. And that was that moment for us. We just sat back and watched. And we just got to see, what God's been doing in our lives. And so it was such a proud moment. We cried a lot. And it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful to see the heart that they have for Jesus and all that they do, which is what our biggest heart has been, is to cultivate the will of the Father, the fear of the Lord, the love of the Lord over their lives. And just to see that manifest before our eyes is just a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah, it was. I was shocked that you didn't mention it in the episode we just did. So I'm glad you brought it up now. But yeah, to witness that was actually really moving. And like I told you, Amalia, her middle little girl, she was singing praise by Elevation Music, and where I was sitting, there was this man in the back. He's like, I'm about to start shouting right now. And it was just, it really was moving. You can just tell that it really just changed the vibe of the atmosphere.
And there is a lady on the right side. I don't know if you heard her. She was like, "Get him, baby!"
No.
And so what's crazy is that not everybody was saved in this recital, right? And so I got chills when I heard her sing it, and we had people come up to us after and say, that's our favorite song. So to see her be that bold to proclaim Jesus, because the recital was not a Christian recital, but yet you have a 6-year-old who's bold and wants to proclaim Jesus wherever she goes, and she chose a song which did just that. I was like, proud moment.
Yeah, for sure. You're about to start crying.
I know. It's like,
It was really sweet. And then also Emma's like breakthrough as well.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal. Sheesh, so many good things. Okay, so for me, the way that Jesus moved in my life this last week, another question that was sent in by Maria. Good job, okay. Gonna have you interview us. Let's see. So I've been doing a lot more like hiking and being out in nature, and it's been a desire of my heart for years now, but I finally started getting like the boldness to do it. Not just do it, but doing it on my own. And I went to this place, and I've been wanting to hike to a waterfall for like ever, and I honestly never thought that I would have that opportunity, just because, you know, the devil is a freaking liar. And so this time I was like, I was hired to do something, and so I went. And I was like, let me check if there's any hiking trails around here, right? And so I went. There was one like 5 minutes away, literally 5 minutes away. So I found the spot, and then I started walking. And I remember as soon as I got on the trail, like I was just overcome with so much joy. And I went, like, there was another fork in the road, right? And I was like, okay, like, which way do I go? Which way do I, like, blah, blah. And I practiced that, like, scripture, right? Like, that there would be a voice behind you, and it'll teach you which way to go. I did not hear the voice. I went the wrong way.
Really? I was like, wow.
I went the wrong way. And so it took me, I went up the hill, and then I saw that it was going to take me back down to the parking space. And so I had a choice in that moment where it's like, okay, like, do I just go back and do I just do whatever I need to do, or do I try to do this right? So then I was like, let me just go back. So then I start walking, and it's cool, you know, you run into people. Like, it was really cool just to see, like, the scenery, and just to understand that I'm there completely by myself, and to understand that I'm doing something that for me I thought it was impossible. And so I'm like walking, and I get to this point, right, where I'm just like, okay, like, I'm tired. I had been fasting, and so I hadn't eaten in like 3 days. I was running on like 4 hours of sleep. It was not the best circumstances, but I felt great. Like, and I don't say that in a delirious way. Like, I literally felt great for this. Okay. So then I was there, but I was still tired, and I was like, okay, is it wisdom for me to go and continue, or is it wise for me to turn back now? And so then I'm like, okay, I've never been so close to my goal. I can either turn back and regret it, or I can continue moving forward. And so I prayed to the Lord for him to protect my health. And I walked, and there was this group of guys that were like in front of me. And of course, like, you know, I had my protection with me, right? So then I was like, just in case anything pops up. But I was following like their like where they went in or whatever, like this little part of the hike, and I was like, oh, like, I wonder if that's it. So then I went down there, and all of a sudden, like, I couldn't see where I was going, like, I couldn't see what was ahead of me, and I was like, you know what, at this point, like, you're here, girl, like, you're gonna, you know, you're here. And so I ended up going, and it was a little bit hard, like, the terrain got a little bit harder, but then I was like, no, like, you're doing it, right? And so then I got there, and I see the beautiful, beautiful waterfall, and I see the beautiful scenery, and it was just honestly so amazing. And it really has been teaching me, because I've been asking the Lord to teach me the gift of finishing what I start. And so, you know, when things start to look like you don't know, because that's what we were talking about last episode, right? Following God's vision, even when you don't know what it's gonna end up, or where it's how to get there, like just following God and trusting him. That's what I was doing in that moment. And so to see how it paid off, not only to trust God but trust myself, it was quite wonderful. And then the journey of turning back around and having to go back when I was already tired and all those things, like, even in finding strength in God to doing that, like, it was awesome, honestly. And I just love God for giving me that opportunity, and for friends, because honestly, just seeing my friends doing like their little adventures and stuff, like, it really has motivated me. And so I'm just so grateful, right, that God puts us in a place where community really thrives. And so it reminds me of like a post that I posted where it's like friends with similar goals aren't in competition, they're your team. And so even though goals can look similar, there's this specific vein that God has for you. And if you stay in your vein and if you stay in your lane, then it becomes this like bouquet of flowers, right? And all of a sudden you're a garden, and all of a sudden you're bringing life to the territory. So don't get crazy with your friends. So thank you guys for tuning in. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so next question, the dating question. What are some good first date ideas? This one's fun. Right? It's simple.
Restaurants, eat food.
Talk about your Pier 88 moment, please. Talk about it.
Have you guys had Pier 88?
No.
It has changed my life.
Is the name of a restaurant?
Yeah, it's not by the mall.
Oh.
I've been wanting to go, and we finally went. And I just want to say it was the best. Listen, I legit shed a tear as I was eating my food. Like, when I say I'm a foodie, I really am. And so my husband's like, is it everything you dreamed of? And I was like, that and more. Just like, I legit, like, my eyes watered and everything because it was so good. It was flavorful. We did the Pier 88, like the seasoning, which is a combination of lemon pepper and garlic butter and oh my gosh, there was one, or Cajun. And then they ask you, like, what level of spice you want. So we did medium. And so just the flavors in every bite. Oh my so gosh. Good. Like, it was so
You
good.
just got transported. Yeah. You just saw you go into a different realm right now.
It was really good. So, yeah, first date. I don't know,
That's good.
it's messy. But, I mean, if you want to see how your other half eats.
Dude, okay.
Because that matters, right?
That matters.
That
How
matters.
a person eat. Oh my God.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
can't talk about it enough. Okay. How a person eats will tell you how they will behave in any circumstance. Can you take them around your pastors? Can you take them around your boss? Like,
Amen.
That matters.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So I said a restaurant.
Yes.
A lot is exposed. Manners tape, like, you know,
they treat-
mannerisms.
yeah.
Yeah.
How they treat the staff,
Yes.
how they eat,
Yes.
what they order.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good first date to weed out the bad apples. Do you ladies have any other suggestions?
I say something like active, interactive. I don't know if I want to share.
I don't know what you're thinking of.
Let's just. I went on out with some friends and with the guy.
Yes.
This one time, I believed it was a prospective date, and so I went with my friends, and it was bowling and dinner at the bowling alley. Really simple, very nice, and that brought out a lot about this guy. Because let's just say it didn't end well. It's okay. But it does show you a lot about the person, like how they move, how interactive, how well they can get along with your friends or with you.
Yeah.
Just that connection, and then what manners you have at the dinner table as well. Like, are you gonna pay for me or?
It's a big one.
Or pretend at the very least. Like,
Did they use a coupon?
They didn't even. They didn't even use a card.
I think he asked for like cash back
Oh.
and something. I was like,
Yeah, so that's a really good. Thank you.
Example.
Thank you for taking one for the team for such a time. Shaquina.
I have to agree with Kat. I think anything interactive with another group of people. For me, it's I want to see how they interact with people and how they act. And when it's just you and another person, you can be whoever you want. It's easier to kind of pretend. It's easier to be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
But when you have a large group of people or...
yeah, that's the thing.
Let's see how competitive you are and how you act and respond to, you know...
how are you going to treat me?
How are you going
around
to treat
other
me?
people?
How are you going to treat other people? How are you going to get involved in the game? It's all...
Yeah, like two things. One that you taught me, you're like always bring your person around your friends and like the church, obviously, and see how they react with that. And then also when you're with them and their family, or when they're with your family, like you see a different part of them.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
That exposes a lot.
It does.
And like, how are you going to introduce me? How are you going to treat me this? Are you going to leave me? Are you going to be here? Like, how are you going to flow in all this?
I've had the experience, to be honest, though, where I've brought people around my friends and they treat them a certain way because they're trying to get with me. So they feel like they put on like this facade, right? Like, oh, if I can get to the friends, and I know I can get with you. But I've noticed, my experience, that when I've brought them around strangers, it says a lot because they're strangers. They don't have to win these people over, right? Because they're not going to see them again unless they know them. So
Like the waitress.
like the waitress. So that's just been my personal experience of like what I've encountered. I mean, clearly one of the reasons I love my husband is because when I did bring him around my friends, he like barbecued for all of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this guy's a keeper.
Yeah.
But that's just him now.
Yeah.
But that's how he treats strangers too, though. He's very kind. Well, sometimes depends who you are. But
shoot, what was I going to say when you guys said something that sparked a thought? There's this reel that I saw. Where it was so funny. It was a girl, and it was like the option A, either like something embarrassing or like something that was like cutthroat, like it's gonna sound crazy, but like dying or whatever, or your friend seeing how you act when you're alone with the guy. So it's like, because they're a completely different person, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure. Yeah, seeing him,
like,
that's why, like Kat said, when you're bring him around your friends, but also be around his friends and family, because he can't pretend with his friends and family. They will call him out.
Yeah, that's true.
And they will call you out. Your friends will call you out. For sure.
For sure.
So yeah, for me, I'm gonna keep it simple. I really do enjoy like the coffee.
Yeah.
I feel like the first date is like the preliminary date, or depends if you're looking at it. Is the first date like the first official date, or is the first date the preliminary date, like the prospective, like you said?
Yeah.
You know,
I get it.
What do you guys consider to be the first date? The prospective or the official?
Well, what order does it go in?
I know. It just
the prospective.
depends.
The prospective is the first date.
Yeah, I think it depends on, have you known this person?
Yeah, how did you guys
Are they
meet?
brand new?
Yeah.
If they're brand new, first date, you're just getting to know each other. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to roast them or
I think like the perspective
put them
should
through
be
the
like
ringer,
a
watch how they eat, you know?
Yeah. Don't invite your friends.
I think if it's someone that you've never met, blind date, someone you met on an app, definitely take it a lot more lightly. This is just a basic get to know you kind of thing. But if you've known them for a while and you're wanting to take the next step, then I think a first date would be more of an official date.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that
I agree
makes
with
sense.
that.
I agree.
I agree with that. The consensus is we agree.
I agree.
Yeah, but I like chill. I really do. Okay, so the next one. Oh wait, that was a dating question. So now to the nitty gritty. We're 21 minutes in. We did. Wow. We're excited about this one.
We are.
We're partying today. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about boundaries today. So how I want to start is, how do boundaries help you develop the joy of, well, first and foremost, let's talk about good boundaries and bad boundaries. How about we do that?
Yeah.
So Denise, take it away.
So I don't know why, but good and bad, or I don't know. I like healthy and unhealthy.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's better terminology.
The reason we're bringing this up is I do weekly courses with the girls that I mentor through this program, and just so you guys know, this program is vetted. It's done with different like renowned like doctors, psychologists, therapists, Christian based. So it's not just random information. It's a program that's used widely in a lot of centers to just help. So anyway, so I did this curriculum with these women, and it's been really powerful because we were learning about you hear the word boundaries, and I'm like, oh, boundaries are good, right? You think boundaries are good, but then you realize that the same way there's healthy boundaries, there's unhealthy boundaries. Mm-hmm. And so when we were doing this video, it really caught my attention on how basically, you know, healthy boundaries are boundaries that you can control, in the sense of you can control like how you respond, how you behave, how you act, how you take it. Mm-hmm. Unhealthy boundaries are done when you're placing an expectation on someone else. Mm-hmm. And so now we've learned that obviously throughout, you know, our mentorships and stuff, but it really just allowed me to see that, especially for women who have been in abusive relationships, subconsciously you tend to put unhealthy boundaries because you try to control situations whether you realize it or not. Mm-hmm. For example, if I were to say my husband can't cheat on me, that's an unhealthy boundary. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I can't control what he does or does not do. Mm-hmm. It's a false expectation that I'm placing on him. He shouldn't cheat on me, right? I mean, that's on him. But a healthy boundary would be, I choose not to be in a relationship where I'm treated wrong. Mm-hmm. That's a healthy boundary because I'm placing the expectation on myself, on what I can control me and how I'm going to react. For example, another unhealthy boundary would be like, oh, Kat, you can't call me stupid. You shouldn't, right? But I can't place that's a false expectation because people are going to call you stupid. And this really even helped me when it came to my children. It's like, I can't tell my children people can't call you stupid because people are going to call them that. So now my job is to teach them how to react or to respond to somebody calling them that, right? So a healthy boundary would be like, I refuse to be in a relationship, or I refuse to sit and listen to somebody who mistreats me. Mm-hmm. That's a healthy boundary. So I hope that makes sense. But for me, it was honestly really just eye-opening. And even as a mom, you know, one of the things they talked about was like, you can't say, I'm going to make my child happy, because you can't control your children's emotions the same way nobody can control your emotions. So what you would say is, you know, if I do something wrong, then of course I'm going to apologize, but it's not on me how somebody else responds or reacts.
Right.
And that's kind of what Abrob was touching on today, which we were like, wait, he's listening to our conversations. But so yes, healthy and unhealthy boundaries.
That's really good. And I know that we hadn't talked about what God was doing, right? And so with me, God, during the week, he was talking to me about how boundaries are actually a form of self-discipline. And for a long time, I thought that boundaries were, like you were saying, it was my expectations of other people and how to respond to me. But at the end of the day, I realized that boundaries are the ways that I respect myself and the ways that not expect others to respect me, because I can't put that expectation on others, but it's the way that I draw the line. It's the way that I give myself value. And so, for example, I like the examples that you gave, honestly, and I don't know that it really requires anymore, but just if somebody's gonna, all of a sudden, if they're gonna, I don't know, let's talk about dating aspect, right? If they're gonna confirm plans with me last minute, then I'm gonna choose that that's not a thing for me, because I want to be given time, I want to be given priority and all these things. So is it fair for me to be like, hey, like, you need to make time for me and blah blah blah? That should come out of their heart, right? And it's up to me to be like, is this something that I'm willing to compromise on, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit, or is this something that I'm willing to put a hard stop on? And so I realized that in doing that, honestly, I mean, it's only been a week. The Lord just really started teaching me that. So I can say my life has been transformed. Because if anything, the Lord is like disciplining me, right? In order to keep these things alive. But in order for me to get to that place in boundaries with people, what's been crazy to me is that I've actually been putting boundaries that I have to keep for myself that doesn't affect anybody else. So for example, social media. I don't get on social media until I've read the word and I've prayed. If I haven't read and if I haven't prayed, then I'm not going to get on social media. So if I can honor myself and honor God in that way, then I can trust myself in different realms and in different areas, right? So it's the small things that lead you to the big things that put you in places where the Lord can trust you. Because if you have self-discipline, then you have honor for God, right? So what do you ladies think about this?
I think that's really good, in the way that you and Denise described it puts a better perspective on it, because I feel like especially when it comes to dating and relationships, people see boundaries as, oh, what I can and cannot do, like how far everything goes, rather than you saying like, this is how I respect myself, because at the end of the day, all you can control is you. And it's not saying you can't go this far with me, you can't do this, or we shouldn't do that. It's no, this is my respect for God, and then my respect for myself, and then you do as you please. If you're gonna do something, okay, I'm gonna respect myself and take myself out of the room. So
I agree.
Ditto. No, I think I learned. It's funny because I never realized that I had a strong sense of boundaries, just due to the fact that I had a good upbringing, until I went through my marital problems. And a lot of the therapists that we were going to had already seen that there was such a healthy establishment of boundaries that most women in those situations don't have. Just because they never experienced it. And so, yeah, I totally agree. Boundaries is not about controlling the other person.
Right.
I never ever told my husband, you shouldn't. I mean, I did, but let me read it. I didn't control him, though. I didn't lock him in the room. I didn't, you know what I mean?
Okay. Though you wanted to.
We all wanted to.
Right.
You know, but honestly, if he ever acted out, I left. I just left, you know, and a lot of women who I explained that to were like, how could you just leave? What if he continued? Then he continues, that's on him. You know, if he continues acting out, he continues doing his thing, that's on him. I needed to be safe. I was in a place where I was being hurt, not physically, I want to make that clear, but just emotionally, I was being hurt. I was being, all right, that's Carlos.
Freaking Carlos.
But it was a decision I had to make for me. And a lot of people who are just learning these steps obviously get very upset and like, but you don't understand, if they would just do XYZ and do XYZ and whatever and align this way, like my life would be great. I'm not even saying you're wrong. You know, if so-and-so stopped mistreating you, if so-and-so kept their promises, probably your life would be a lot better. But you can't control them. It's unhealthy for you to control them. What you can do is it's about how you respond. Like my mom always says in every counseling session, you're here, but what did you do? That's what we're talking about here is you. How did you respond?
Those are the worst. Where I'm like, but this person, she's like, you're right. But you're here with me right now.
Yeah, this person is not asking for help. This person is not asking for counseling right now. You are.
And it goes back to what she always says, if nothing else changes, what are you going to do differently, right? So I think we've already had a foundation of that. For me, when I learned about this class, I'm a visual person, right? So when you give me like examples, I'm like, oh, like the simple ones of you can't cheat on me versus if you choose to cheat, I'm not going to stay. Like, you know what I mean? Those tangible things, it allows for people to understand, right? Or compare like, okay, what does that look like? Yeah. And the reason we're talking about all of this is because the subject is joy. Yeah. When you realize that you can't control other people, but you do have control on how you can respond. And I like to choose the word respond because I think react is unhealthy too, right? Yes. Like people, if you're reactive, then you're not thinking things through. But if it's emotional. So if you can respond, there is such a sense of joy and freedom. If there's a sense of freedom, which then births joy, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, that is in my control. Yeah. I don't have to get upset about that post. Like that choice is mine. Yeah. And so so it's just this, like I said, it's liberation. It's freedom. Yeah. My hat.
I would even agree with that because like me, naturally, I'm a people pleaser. Right. And then something when I had brought up to counseling with you was that you can't control people even if you want to help them or you want to change them. You can control how you respond to that. And so as a people pleaser, I was like, oh, I can put a boundary of, okay, if this is happening, I will just walk out of the room. And now I'm not like under that shame of like, oh, I need to protect you. I need to do this for you. I need to like be your helper. It's like, no, because it's like, what's my role in this, right? Yeah.
Well, there is a scripture, and I'm saying this carefully because I'm not applying it to that person, but there is a scripture that says, don't cast your pearls before swine, right? And so don't throw yourself in a place where it's not going to be appreciated, right? Like, and so that is important as well because respecting other people's boundaries as well. I think it's also a conversation worth having.
Absolutely.
I know me and Shekinah were just talking about this on Monday because Shekinah went Android, you guys. She messed up the freaking group chat.
I still haven't released her. She knows it.
So
they're a little upset with me. Sorry, Apple users. They're very upset with me. Sorry, Apple users. But Kat's on my side.
Yeah, I've been here.
Not on purpose.
Yes.
No.
I like my Android better. I'm not gonna lie.
Whatever. All right. So anyway, back to the subject matter.
Because she can't communicate with people, so she's
there's that too. I finally have an excuse to ignore all the crash.
Back to the subject matter. So I hadn't heard from my girl in like days. Okay, and I was like, hello, we're running a ministry together. I need to hear your input. Blah blah blah. So then Melissa exercised a boundary within herself and was like, I can either put that expectation on her, or I can choose to not jump to conclusions. So I called my friend, right? And I was like, hey, what the heck is going on? And so then, long story short, I was like, it got to a moment, right? Because I understand the boundaries that Shekinah's placing on her life, right? I know that she's trying to be more in tune with Mother Nature. Not Mother Nature. I don't even know if that's... Maybe I shouldn't say that.
The hippie life.
I know that she's really selective on the times that she's on her phone and all these things. So, of course, I let a few days go by because I'm like, I don't want to have an expectation that she needs to respond to me when I need her to respond to me. I need to respect her, right? And so then finally when I called her and we were able to have a conversation, it wasn't like, hey, blah, blah, blah. It was like, hey, like, I know that this and this is happening. Like, what's going on?
I mean, granted, a few days it's I think anything more than like 24 hours is definitely a concern. So thank you for calling me. I was just making that transition from my phone, so I didn't get a few messages during that transition, but thank you for calling me and not getting offended.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm saying that, right, is because you have the power to be able to be like, okay, like, how am I going to respond in this situation? And it also helps when you know the people's heart, when you know the people that you're breaking bread with, the people that you're communing with, right? Because it's like, okay, like, I know that this person has my best interests at heart, and I know that this and this is happening, so let me move forward with that information, right? Instead of being emotional about it. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It does.
So, all right, you guys. So we didn't anticipate this, but we still haven't covered half of what we want to talk about. So there is going to be a part 2. So stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, pray for your friends, pray for the world, because it's getting crazy out here. Free Donald Trump. Okay.
For our listeners, we all just facepalm.
I had to. All right. See you guys later. Vaya con Dios.
Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode or we answered any of your questions, or you have a question that you would like to be discussed in future episodes, let us know in the comments or share on social media. And be sure to hit subscribe so you won't miss out on the amazing content and guests we have lined up for you. Shalom and God bless.